Welcome to EduCare's training module on emergency preparedness, a partnership with the Minnesota Health and Housing Alliance. Hi, you're probably wondering who the facilitator of this class is today. My name is Brad Emmons. I'm a fire chief. I've been in the fire service for 33 years. I know that's a long time, but bear with me. I'm not 100 years old. I've been for those 33 years, 19 of them I've been the fire chief, and I also have 10 years of experience in emergency management. So once again, I hope you enjoy the class, and let's get started.
Now let's take a look at the learning objectives for this module. First of all, we have the importance of emergency preparedness, planning, and response. Tools in place to support you, how to effectively use 911 and circumstances that may warrant such a call, how to report and document an incident when it occurs, and how to respond to certain emergency situations such as fire, severe weather, loss of heat or power, flood or water issues, explosions, and client concerns, including missing client, aggression, fall, and more. Throughout this module, we use the terms of resident and client interchangeably. We also use the terms home, facility, your company, and your organization interchangeably. Please know that the information and training provided is the same regardless of the setting in which you work and provide service to others.
Okay, the first thing we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about general emergency information. Now, class, keep in mind that emergencies can happen at any given time, any moment, any hour of the day. And let me tell you something, they will. I know that from personal experience, 33 years in the fire service, emergencies happen. In healthcare, and you people will be particularly working with the vulnerable adults, you have to be very cognizant of what the rules and procedures and policies are for your company. And there's only one way you can do that. You have to be prepared, and you have to have a clear understanding of what the plan is, and you have to be able to follow that without any direction. You might say, I did not know that. Well, you got to keep in mind there is never going to be a time when you will be able to have somebody standing next to you telling you exactly what to do. So that's critical. The plan should be very detailed, should be very concise, and it should be able to do it without direction 24/7. Why is emergency knowledge important? Okay, I'm going to tell you something. You might not believe this, but you are responsible for the lives of your patients. I'm going to let you just think about that for a second. You are just like the police, the fire, and the EMS, the ambulance people, the emergency rooms. You are that first line of defense, let's say, on our patients. So in an emergency, you must be ready to react properly is a key, and you must be ready to save the lives of the patients, your co-workers, and ultimately yourself. Emergencies change constantly. I said that earlier. There's no two the same. So you need to know the basics, you need to plan, and you need to pre-plan, and then you need to train. How to use 911. I know probably many of you out there are probably chuckling right now saying, well, anybody knows how to dial 911. But let me tell you something. I have spent many hours in a dispatch center, and you would be shocked, surprised, dismayed at what is said when people dial 911 and the reasons they call 911. So let's go over that briefly. When you call 911, the dispatcher is going to ask you a bunch of questions, and you're going to be very frustrated by that. Keep in mind, they're doing that for a purpose. So you want to give them your name, give them your address, and tell them what the emergency is so they know what emergency operations they can send to your facility. Critical. And then make sure you follow all of the directions of the 911 dispatcher. Many times they've got wonderful advice for you to kind of get you through that next couple minutes while you're waiting for the emergency responder to arrive on scene. Stay on the phone until the emergency 911 dispatcher tells you to hang up. Remember, stay on the phone till they tell you to hang up. And then finally, lastly, take a little time to reassure the family or the resident that everything is fine. Do not stay calm. Do not get that person all agitated. That's only going to complicate your problem. And now the million-dollar question: how does dispatch actually work? Over the years, I've had several complaints about dispatch. Citizens have called in on emergencies, and they said that there was too much delay, too much time taken before somebody was actually dispatched to their emergency. So I figured the only way to get to the bottom of this was actually go to dispatch myself. I spent several hours over several different days sitting in dispatch, listening, watching, hearing all the different types of calls coming in from police, fire, ambulance, storm warnings. And what you people need to know is that the dispatchers are trained. They have a procedure they have to follow, and they ask the same questions to everybody. And you should expect to spend about 45 seconds on the phone with them. They're going to ask stuff like name, phone number, address. What is the problem? And keep in mind, all this while on their computer, information is going to show up. Information is going to show up on the computer. For example, who is the police department that is supposed to respond? What fire department, what ambulance service? There's also a lot of information on there that you're probably not even aware of. Does the house have an alarm system? Does it have a security dog? Is it sprinkled? About gas and electricity? So there's a wealth of information, and that is the type of information that me as an emergency responder needs to know. So be patient with them people. Give them the information. They're there to serve you. They're there to help you. Let's just roll through some different scenarios that you might need to call 911 for. Let's say you have a patient that has trouble breathing or has stopped breathing. They have no pulse. They're bleeding. They have chest, neck, or jaw, arm pain, which would obviously indicate a heart condition. They're unconscious. There are fractures suspected. They have a severe burn, unable to move one or more limbs. They're having a seizure. They're suffering from either hypothermia or hypothermia. You suspect poisoning, diabetic emergency, or let's just put it very simple. If you have any doubt as to the seriousness of the situation, you want to call 911. We were talking about times that you would want to call 911. Now, the next topic here we're going to talk about is your facility. These are some reasons you'd want to call 911 because of a facility emergency. Fire, severe weather damage, flood or major water issues. Let's say you have a bomb threat. Let's say you have a personal threat against either one of the co-workers, yourself, or one of the patients. Or finally, maybe you have a missing person. Those are all incidents that you would want to call 911 and get help there immediately. One thing you students need to keep in mind under this emergency contact information is that once emergency personnel arrive on site, they become the person in charge. They become the incident commander, and the rest of you will only assist under their direction. Resident information is also important. On some emergencies, you will be required to contact the resident's responsible party, loved one, relative, whatever. The person in charge of your facility will make that call, or they will direct you to do so. That is not your responsibility. First emergency procedure we're going to talk about today is fire. Now we're going to start with a disclaimer here. My suggestion to each of the facilities management staff is to contact your local fire department. Contact the local fire chief, fire marshal, something along that lines, and have that individual come out to your facility and go through your building, look at all the fire protection that's been built in, and go over your emergency response to fire. There's buildings that have smoke detectors, they have fire sprinklers, their exit sign, emergency lights, all that type of stuff, and you really need to get those people involved on the ground floor. So there's my initial disclaimer, and so now we're going to jump right into fire. Let's talk about fire. Obviously, I'm with the fire department, so this is an area that I'm the most concerned about. Fire. It is not uncommon to have temperatures at the ceiling to be 1200 degrees in 3 minutes. The products we have in today's home will cause thick black smoke, so thick and so black that you literally cannot see your hand in front of your face. It absolutely drives me crazy that people outside the fire service think that they can go in to a burning building and save somebody. Literally, people, one breath of the toxic smoke will render you unconscious. One breath of 1200 degrees in your lungs will kill you. You will be dead. You have now become another victim for the fire department to rescue. Let's talk about fire procedure, alarm, sounds. We're not going to distinguish between alarms in your area or the facility. Alarms are designated and designed to sound throughout the building. If you get an alarm, call 911. We've talked about 911 on several occasions. You check your immediate area for resident safety, close all the doors, and wait for further direction. Then you will respond to the fire department directive. Okay, let's talk about light smoke. Light smoke would be, an example would be if you walked into a room and there was a gentleman sitting there smoking a cigar. That's the type of smoke we're talking about. It's not that heavy, thick, black smoke. Can't see your hand in front of your eyes. Okay, next thing we're going to talk about here is heavy smoke. Heavy smoke is the stuff that we've been talking about at the beginning of this, that thick, black, acrid smoke, 1200 degrees, one breath and you're unconscious, one breath and you could very easily be dead. That type of smoke. You could imagine that the entire area would be almost black. We're going to talk about severe storms and tornado watches. It's critical that as employees you know the difference now. A watch means if you have severe storms or a tornado watch has been issued for your area, that means the conditions are right for the development of a storm. That just doesn't mean there is one, just means the conditions are right. If you actually get a severe storm or a tornado warning, that means that somebody, whether it's a National Weather Service, a trained spotter, somebody like that has actually seen some severe weather and they are notifying you to enact your emergency plan. The next item we're going to talk about here is know exactly, this is the most important part, know exactly what the sirens mean in your area. Okay, emergency sirens. I would bet that in my career probably some of the most interesting things I've ever heard when we've talked about storms is the people's perception of storms. Just in our area alone, I can tell you that this year we had a very, very critical storm. A tornado, it was an F3, went through a metropolitan city, and the people said the sirens blew. They blew for 5 minutes. They shut off. The people said, oh, the storm must be past. They went back outside and continued their life, when in fact the tornado hadn't got there yet. So now we've got people injured, houses are destroyed, the residents are very, very unhappy. They wanted to know how come the sirens didn't keep blowing. So once again, it's critical that you know what the sirens mean. Contact your emergency manager and ask them. Do the sirens mean you're supposed to take shelter? Did the sirens mean turn on your local radio station? Find out what them sirens mean in your area. Loss of heat for your building. Now, if you lived in Florida, this probably wouldn't be a real big concern of you, but if you live any place in the Midwest and winter comes along, and we all know that our winters are quite long, and obviously the older we get, they seem to get colder. So loss of heat is a big, big concern for your facility. What might happen that would cause loss of heat? You might have just something as simple as a equipment malfunction with your boilers. Another thing, you could lose fuel. You could run out of fuel. You could have a disruption in your gas service, your propane, anything like that. So that is why we're going to have an actual procedure for you to follow from your company to talk about loss of heat and what to do. Okay, we're going to talk about floods or water issues. First thing you got to keep in mind is don't panic. Remember, it's just water. It's not a big deal. And what are some things that might happen that you would have water? Obviously, you could have a flood. too much rain. Once in a while you'll see on the news when they talk about we're in a flash flood watch or a flash flood warning. You could live next door to a river. Certainly we've had a lot of flooding recently in some of the states in the area. Another thing you could have is you could have broken pipes. You could have broken water pipes. Water heater could go out. Or we could also have a broken sprinkler pipe. If you look up at the ceiling in the facility you're in right now, you'll probably see some little sprinkler heads hanging down. They occasionally break. Matter of fact, the national statistics are 1 in 10 million heads will fail. Somebody could hit it, somebody could run into it. That would be beyond the normal malfunction of one. That also could cause concern. So once again, don't panic. It's just water. Okay, we're going to talk about explosions. Keep in mind that when I say explosions, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bomb. We just talked about bomb threats. Explosions could happen from gas, any other type of volatile flammable liquid could also explode. So, let's not get too carried away here and that somebody actually planted a bomb in your facility. In the event of an explosion, once again, your most important job is life safety, life preservation, which includes your life, so keep that in mind. We've talked about that before. We're not going to risk our own lives for somebody that could possibly be dead already. It is your responsibility to move the ones that are still mobile to a safe location, conduct an accountability so you know who's there, so you can report that information on to the incident commander on scene. And then, once again, the incident commander will tell you exactly what they want you to do. So you follow the directives of the IC. Okay, you just went over your procedure for your facility. At this time, I'd like to give you just a few helpful hints, some things that we've found over the years that have been very beneficial. Give the dispatcher a description of the resident when you're talking on your 911 call. And then, most importantly, gather a photo. Have a photo available for when the police and the searchers show up. That's important. And if appropriate, once again, if it's appropriate, explain that the resident has a memory loss. They may not understand the direction that you're giving them. They may be confused. They may be agitated, and they might not respond when their name is called. You also might want to suggest that if a searcher does find your person that is eloped, that you will drive one of the employees at your facility to that location to comfort him or her, and bring them back to the facility safely. Some more helpful hints. Once the search and rescue personnel arrive on the scene, identify yourself to the commander, the incident commander of that scene. Supply all the information that you have about that, and then think about being the go-between incident command and the family, the other staff and management of that facility. And once again, this is kind of important here. And once you've called 911, that scene has been turned over to the emergency responders. That scene is no longer yours. They will instantly tell you to secure the room that the resident was in. There's a lot of valuable information there. The clothes for bloodhounds and a lot of other information. So secure the bedroom. Very important. Okay, some more helpful hints here. If this was me, I worked at the facility, the very first thing I would be concerned about is notifying the senior staff, the senior management of your company. You need to let them people know what's going on in your facility so they can get out there and get on the scene, take control of the situation on your end while the emergency personnel are doing the searching. In the meantime, you might want to check the internal log for visitors or see if the resident actually checked out. You want to contact the family. Important. Make sure the resident did not leave with one of the family members, and in fact is not missing. It's just he or she is actually just left for the afternoon. Those are some things to think about. We're going to talk about resident death now. Due to the nature of the business you're in, when you're dealing with the aged, you are from time to time going to encounter death. It's just the way it is. Death is part of life. You should not be afraid of it. Um, and be honest with yourself and be honest with your staff. If you cannot work, in that situation around somebody that has passed away, you need to communicate that to your supervisor so they can take that into consideration. Let's talk about resident aggression. Resident aggression can occur at any time, as I'm sure you're well aware. As aggression is an emotion, keep in mind that it does not occur without cause or reason. I want to repeat that. Aggression is an emotion. So the reason it happens is because something has occurred to agitate this person. It is your job, and one that I would certainly suggest, is that you find out what the cause is. In the event that you have some resident aggression to another person, to staff, or a visitor, and it becomes uncontrollable, you need to protect the people that are around you, maintain their safety, and move those people out of the immediate danger. Although we strive to avoid such occurrences, the pure nature of the residents we serve may lead to such incidents. We're going to talk about resident falls now. Unfortunately, seniors experience falls every day across this great land of ours, and whether they're in their home or in their facility, and I can assure you we respond to them virtually, at least on a every other day basis, in my city. And although you can be proactive, you cannot always prevent falls. And as a result of these falls, some of them do cause very serious injuries. And it is your responsibility to make sure that they are assessed by a nurse. Resuscitation. Resuscitation, in case you're not real clear on what it actually means, it is the procedure of another person implementing the breathing part for that individual. Every company has a different policy and procedure for resuscitation of residents. Most of the time, the response depends on the training and certification of the employees. Once again, get to know what your company's policy is, what your procedure is, and what the residents' wish is. We're going to talk about some more life-sustaining treatment here. What really is life-sustaining treatment? What we're talking about here is the care and the treatment that you're going to administer to a person during an emergency when their life is threatened. For example, the person has a stroke. The person has a heart attack. Many seniors have identified their wishes for life-sustaining treatment, and it's important that you, as an employee and as at the facility, that you honor their wishes. The end of the life wishes are referred to as advance directives. Keep that in mind. Know that term, advance directives. Crisis communications. In my business, we call that public information, but in your facility, it's crisis communication. So we're going to go over a couple helpful hints here. Do not give out any information if you are not authorized to do so. It's very important. Do not gossip or repeat information that you've heard from others. Do not discuss the case, the situation in public places or where others that are within earshot distance of you, could hear you and therefore start the rumors throughout your community. Make sure you direct all questions by the media, family, anybody else to your supervisor. And if you are given a prepared statement to read to the media or anybody else, read that statement and do not add your own editorial comments. Critical stuff there. We've gone over a lot of different emergency policies and procedures today. I hope that you found the information informative, helpful in your careers, and will prepare you to respond and treat the residents in a professional manner. Keep in mind one thing. The residents depend on you, so stay calm, be prepared, constantly improve your skills, and you will be successful. I want to thank you very much for your time today. Please remember to shut off the DVD player, and please take a few moments and complete the test, the best part, that follows your participant guide. If you have any questions, please talk to your supervisor. Thank you.